This is an unconstitutional awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesigned.
Ahoy there, mateys! It's time to set sail on another special edition of Unconstitutional Awakening. This is going to be the first in our deep dive into the history of pirates, titled The Sea of Thieves. So we've got a lot in store for you guys because, I don't know if many of you realize this or not, but a lot of piracy goes back to the 14th century BC. So I'm talking about way before I think you could wrap your brain around thousands of years ago. And it's interesting to know that it goes that far back because, most people, their first thought of piracy is, the Golden Age in the days of over here in the Caribbean and Blackbeard and stuff like that. And don't worry, we do plan on getting to that. But first, we're going to take you back to when it all really began, or at least the first times that they were mentioned and such. Of course, this is going to be, I think our fourth docuseries where we're, breaking it down into multiple episodes. This, I think, will be the longest one we've ever had because there is so much information. But I just felt we could liven it up a little bit and have some fun with some history for once. And, I definitely don't like to be fear-mongering and such. And I figure we can have a little bit of fun on some pirate subjects. And Bandit and Neptune and myself have been kind of talking about this off and on since we really started the whole podcast idea, and I felt it was finally time to get into some pirates, seeing as how we're all a bunch of freedom pirates. So, of course, you guys, I do appreciate everybody that's out there listening and watching on Rumble and Odyssey, BitChute, and all those audio streaming platforms we got going on, like Apple and Podbean and Spotify. I do appreciate all of you everywhere that are listening and stuff like that to the OG Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. There's only one, regardless of what anybody wants to tell you. We're the original one going. So you guys make sure you check out all of our good stuff, and you can start, of course, by getting over there to the official website for the show and everything else that deals with us, unconstitutionalawakening.com. You can find the podcast, upcoming news. You can even get on the social and do some chatting with us. We got all the links to where you can watch and listen. You can even listen while you're there on the site, and you can go right here and check out our sweet merch. And while you're here, you can get linked up directly with our good buddies and sponsors that we help out over here at the show, like my buddy Kirk Elliott over there at kirkelliottphd.com/JimBob/. He'll get you some good consulting, man. He's somebody that I really trust as far as trying to help folks on this consulting stuff, because he's not one of those dudes up on Wall Street. He's an everyday guy like you and me, just trying to make it work. And it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you need somewhere to invest your money. And I believe silver right now is probably your best bet. Of course, you can get over there and check out Peachy Key Creations. She's got a lot going on with all her candles and soap, her new line of soaps and stuff. There's the pirate soap, and of course her peach soap that's still going real strong. We got plenty of left, you guys. You guys get over there and order some. And if you need some energy healing, she's on top of that too. She's in fact got a few distance sessions on a discount right now, so you guys make sure you check her out. That's Peachy Key Creations on Facebook. My little buddy over there at Ammo Can Survival, making survival cans inside of ammo cans. He's got everything for camping, first aid, everything in between inside the things. He's doing plate carriers and ghillie suits, and he is back from vacation, so he is looking forward to filling you guys' orders. So make sure to check out Ammo Can Survival over there on Instagram. and my buddy over there, Brett Pike at classicallearner.com with Homeschools Connected and the Cubs to Bears books. Man, this guy's got it going on for everybody that's trying to take education back into their hands nowadays. And I think he's a good friend, and he's definitely a good friend of the show. You guys get over there and check him on out, and he'll help you guys out too with getting your kids' curriculums together and such. So now that we got all that good stuff out of the way, I've got to start the day the right way. How we doing, Bandit?
I'm doing excellent.
Fantastic. I know what's going on up there in Neptune.
Outstanding, man.
Are you guys ready to set sail on this awesome historical job we got planned here?
Absolutely.
Raise the black flag.
That's right. That's right. Well, like I was making mention when I first brought it up there just a little bit ago, is that the earliest documented instances of piracy were in the 14th century BC, and usually were referred to as sea peoples. They were basically ocean raiders. They'd attack ships in Mediterranean civilizations and stuff like that, even into like narrow channels and rivers that they could get their ships into, looting for everything from food to weapons and anything else that they could get their hands on. And I mean, when you really start digging into this, you don't realize how big piracy even was in these times. Like there's definitely different kinds leading all up into these times, because there was a lot going on in the Mediterranean back then. Like that was kind of the center of life.
Well, during the Mediterranean pirate era, it was piracy during the 14th century in the Mediterranean, at least by the Greeks. It was viewed as almost an honorable profession to have, because it was so common that it wasn't viewed as like you would think of like as the Vikings, or they weren't viewed as savages like the Vikings or the pirates during the golden age of piracy. It was there were plenty of mentions of pirates in Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey. Like it wasn't actually frowned upon until later on, during later on in the Greek in the Greek culture.
Sure. Well, if you go back far enough to actually some of the first written accounts of piracy, there is even some notes from the 12,000 BC Roman and Greek ships that did exist at the time, because they did have boats. People think that it's out of question that they had boats back then, but you had I'm going to say it wrong. It's what's that one that I keep saying wrong, Bandit, with the PH? I want you to go ahead and say it because I mess it up. Phoenicians, yes.
And you got to look at it honestly as long as if there were people on the water sailing, no matter how far back, you got to look at it as there were other people on the water willing to take stuff from other people on the water. If you look at it like that, piracy could go back, and it doesn't have to occur in the open water. It can be on rivers. There are plenty of instances of recorded river piracy.
Piracy was a big thing, though. In
theory, piracy can go back as far back as you could possibly think of people, being on the water.
I guess the first written account, which we're not getting too much into the Chinese end of it this go around. We needed a whole episode for that, I believe. Yeah. But you're talking about 2nd century time period, like Han Dynasty time period.
For Asian piracy, yeah.
And then 1200 between 1200 and 4, there was more prominent talk about them in the 1400 BC timeline, but there is the Phoenician, the Illyrian, and the Tyrrhenian pirates all mentioned loosely from starting around 1200 BC.
But by that time, they'd started to become vilified, as a dishonest line of work. But
it was, as you were saying, privateering was something that was,
it was an honest line of work.
hey, let's get into it. We're
Yeah.
we're out there. We're out there not only adventuring and sailing the seas, but we're checking out
We're
what they
working
got
for the
going on,
government.
and it did
You
it did
know?
turn into more of a raider thing, maybe less of an
Yep.
adventure thing.
Privateering has gone. It's not necessarily a big thing now. I think privateering stopped in middle of the 19th century, maybe. Privateers, maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I think I've even seen it mentioned as something that was about to take place, that started to take place with the Somali pirates. I think they enlisted privateers to handle Somali pirates. So maybe it's still a thing,
Well,
hiring private ships to take care of the pirates. So it's been a common thing.
I was actually
And
just about to get that in some of the what is considered British territories and stuff like this back in, or Roman territories, I guess you would say, in these time periods. There were places
mainly
like the Gibraltar and the Strait of
Gibraltar.
Malacca, and even down in
Yeah.
Madagascar.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the
sorry.
English Channel was raided a lot.
So all I was going to say is, in looking at the history of piracy all the way back into 14th century BC, the thing that stands out to me, obviously, is whether it was an honorable profession or not. It seems that it always coincides that the desire to rob and pillage has always been in human DNA, and that to the places that you just mentioned, like around Gibraltar, Madagascar, the English Channel, and like Somalia, the Gulf of Aden. It always seems to coincide with like the major shipping lanes, where your money and resources come from.
Yep.
And thinking of the more recent examples of that, I mean, obviously, I don't think it exists in the same capacity that it did in years past, but I'm thinking of 2009, the Boxer incident with the Somali pirates who captured that Maersk liner.
Yep.
So obviously, it's never really gone away entirely, and it clearly does plague the same places that it's always afflicted.
When you get back into like the Greek and like Latin meanings, it wasn't the English word pirate until like later in the 1300s, not BC, like the 1300s AD, and even in like the way it was pronounced and used now, not until about the 18th century. Back then it was more of like a brigade, or they were like, apparently the word breaks off of I attempt, so to experience. So I guess that meant like the traveling and stuff. And where you had mentioned about it being more of a, it not frowned upon or whatever, it seemed that in like the Mediterranean area, aside the Greek, kind of like the classical Greek era places, like the Greeks frowned upon them themselves, really, but a lot of the surrounding areas weren't, they were pirates, they were pirate places, they were nomadic people on the sea that were traveling to these different areas up and down the Mediterranean coast, trading in commerce, obviously, because I mean, when you look at how history is definitely rewritten, I guess, to favor Roman Greek kind of history, these other places history does in a sense get erased. The winners write it, of course. And so a lot of these people were probably freely trading as just sea people prior to the classical Greece era and ancient Greek era and stuff. Just my thoughts, I guess.
They could, in fact, probably just label anybody that they don't like on the water as a pirate. I think that's usually how it went, though.
Well, the Illyrian pirates are a good one to bring up, I guess, in this time frame, because they're in that, like, they fought with Greeks and then they rolled over into fighting with like Romans and stuff. and they even had a female like leader at one point in time in their group, which seemed to be a common thing when you're going through pirate history. You start seeing a lot more females in piracy than
Oh,
you
yeah.
realize.
But it really didn't kick up until like the Golden Age.
Well, when you're looking in this area of the Illyrian pirates, one of theirs was Queen Tatua. I can't say that right. I'm going to butcher it. It's Teuta. I had it pulled up on the screens for you guys looking. Of course, a lot of this is drawn and edited
Now,
from
see,
what we know.
that is what what everybody is like. I guess everybody's fascinated with the whole like, golden age of pirates, the skull and crossbones and stuff. That is the golden age was such a small blip on the radar of piracy. It really was, and it was.
Yes.
They only made it famous because of like the time period and the action scene, and everybody just was like, oh, you had cannons, you had guns, you had, piracy before that. I mean, you had to take into account that one ship to board another had to ram it and then physically board and fight. You didn't have cannons. You had maybe you used what the Greeks referred to as the Greek fire, which was napalm on a catapult.
So in all these surrounding areas of this ancient place, a lot of these places aren't named the same as this today, but we're around the Adirondack Sea. It's spelled right there for those watching. Again, I butchered things. But anyway, yes, all of these areas had run-ins with the.
Because that's Italy. That's Italy right there off the coast of Italy, right there. That's all you gotta. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it. And like this was like a hotbed for these Illyrian pirates running around. Like these, and all of these ancient civilizations, of course, have writings about these Illyrian pirates running around. And back up to who I was saying is this queen Tauta. She was apparently like badass. Like that was a feared name of the time, as far as a pirate running around. Well,
because of that time period, what did you do? Like, if you wanted to ship a large amount of goods, it had to go by water. Well, I mean, you weren't going to go over land. I mean, they really didn't have the ability to ship large amounts of goods over land. If you wanted to, you got a ship and you loaded it full and you shipped it over water. You didn't have the land shipping that you have now, or even a couple hundred years ago. You just didn't. You shipped it by sea, and we still ship large amounts of stuff by sea.
And
then that was the main stuff. So what'd you do? You wanted to make something real quick. You took a ship,
And so these Illyria people were known before, like their king or whatever. He was known for sending out these pirate ships to go to these places and do exactly that, take this and that and bring back. And when he passed away, the queen continued off, and she actually became more on the seas than kind of not. And she was using them to harass and attack enemies of their group or whatever, basically as a navy of plunder and provide. And in her time after she took over, she kind of consolidated all of them into the most powerful kingdom of that eastern coast that she was out. Like she basically conquered that eastern coast of that lake I was showing you guys earlier, their sea I was showing you guys earlier, right there in that area, and had a stronghold hidden up there where they were even making a civilization, I guess, for pirates of the time.
It's funny you mentioned that. That's the modern day Balkans.
Yes, it's exactly what I was getting at. Is the Balkan Peninsula. So
basically, they were Balkan pirates.
They were Balkan pirates.
That's frightening, because in that area has been forever war. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time when that area of the world has been in some type of conflict with somebody over something. Yeah, like ever. So imagining them as pirates that's kind of frightening, you know?
So she did try to make like a peace treaty, I guess, with the Romans at the time. But then she started ordering like renegade, not really known ships of hers or whatever, to continue to rob the Romans as they were passing through and stuff in that area. Like
once a pirate, always a pirate. I don't think pirates like retired to do something else. I think once they became pirates, they stayed pirates till they either like died of old age or they were killed off. You know? In fact, I don't think I can ever think of besides a few, very few pirates that lived to old age. I don't think I've ever heard of any pirate ever retiring to do something else.
It actually took a Roman fleet of 200 ships with 20,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry for them to conquer that Balkan area of the pirates when they finally did lay siege to try to run them out from where they were. Like that, if that tells you anything, like that's a hell of a lot of people sent for one little group of pirates. But like pirates. These Illyrian pirates were known for their battle skills and their war front and stuff like that. Like that was something, they were good at coming up with the craft of war.
They had to be, because you didn't have the means by which pirates later on. You didn't have cannons to sink the ship. You didn't have gunpowder. Well, maybe they had gunpowder. You didn't have the cannons. You didn't have muskets. You didn't have any of that. These were mainly open compartment row ships. And I mean, they were suited for, I wouldn't say shallow water, really. Neptune's the Navy guy. He would.
So, well, okay. At the same time, though, that we had these going on out of the Greek lore, out of the Greek side of a lot of this, they were also naming a group of pirates that were the Tyrrhenian. And the weird claim about this group of pirates, like I said, I'm butchering it, but the weird group about this, they could apparently transform. It's very common to have seen them depicted as transforming into dolphins when they leapt into the sea.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild. You put this into the Greek mythology type area of mentioning them, but me, I'm going to be one of those guys that like to have this thing. These were actually the pirates that were even mentioned in the Odyssey of Homer.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you even now, I think there are societies that have been wholly like built on water. I think there's still some that exist today that their entire lifestyle revolves around being on the water. And I think you're gonna have to look this up, because I don't want you to quote me on this. As I think they are it's in their genetics to be able to hold their breath longer than that of a normal person when free diving,
which would totally explain the dolphin.
Right. Exactly, man. Exactly.
I mean, think about that though. That there are people like the Iceman Hoff. I know he's a little extreme of an example, but like he can free dive and be underwater for a really long ass fucking time.
I was scuba certified at one time, and my when I took my certification dives down off the coast of Florida, in the Florida Keys, the guy that signed off on my dive book was in his late 50s, and he could dive down to 70 feet on just free diving down to 70 feet and stay down for quite a while. And it's like unreal. Like,
I've heard of that guy, and I believe he also has the record currently for longest held breath naturally diving.
Yeah.
I think it's like 4 minutes and some odd seconds. It's incredible.
Plus, we're talking about 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe people were built different. Just my thing, and even now, if you're raised on water and your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and before them were raised on a seafaring lifestyle, and you've free dove your whole life, it's quite
almost
possible.
An evolution.
Yeah, it's quite possible that it's in your genetics.
It makes me. Sorry, Jimmy.
No, go ahead.
So it just got me thinking too. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. I know it kind of had mixed reviews, but Waterworld.
Yes, it was a good movie.
I actually really
said.
I actually really like that movie personally, and I think it gives credence to that. Like, people would have to adapt and learn to survive, and obviously in that sort of ecosystem where they're not.
No.
Yeah, I don't know how far it would have to go, but cycles of evolution, people would learn to adapt to that to be able to live on in open water in some way similar to that. Just like you got the watermen living off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. Those guys pretty much have spent their entire lives on the water fishing to make a living. So it's I think Waterworld is a good exploratory of the possibility of what that actually looks like and how people would adapt.
Waterworld reminds me of what you would consider the Sicilian pirates, which is where I think you can start coming back into getting closer, I guess, to where we are, because these guys are right on the fall of the BC line, like right before you start going into AD from from the BC rolling up, and these are the result of those Balkan pirates being chased off, and these other pirates of the Greek, because they were finally defeated by the Romans, and so they were. But you never defeat a pirate. You know what I'm saying? You may just chase them from their area. Sure, they colonized.
Pirates aren't a group of people; it's a belief.
Yeah, it's a belief system.
So I mean, you can't really defeat piracy.
Yeah, because can't kill an idea.
And so after chasing off those the pirates from in that bulk, those we're just gonna call them the Balkan pirates. After chasing off the Balkan pirates, you've got the Sicilian pirates coming up into things, and the Sicilian pirates they made deals into the Roman area because they did a lot of trading and slavery. They were bringing people that they captured and kidnapped from ships all over the area, and we're talking all the way down into like Egypt and stuff like that. And these Sicilian pirates, which I've actually got some photos, because
I believe it was Sicilian pirates that had captured Gaius Julius Caesar.
Yeah, you are correct.
I do believe.
You are correct.
And that itself is incredible story that he literally befriended them all and basically started giving them orders.
He pardoned them, didn't he?
He did.
But
then he didn't. If I'm not mistaken, he ended up sinking their ship anyway.
He did sink their ship, and when they returned to land after they had gone back to get the ransom they had asked for, I believe that story ends where he wound up slitting their throats. After he told them that, go back, get more money because you don't know who I am, and when we get back to land, you are going to die. And I don't think they actually took him seriously, but that's exactly what wound up happening. They went back and got the ransom, the amount that he had asked for. And when they landed, that's I think that's how that story ends.
Oh no, absolutely. Let's
It's
see.
a pretty wild story.
I would expect nothing less from a Caesar,
All right, so
I guess.
Seriously.
in 75 BC, which again we're getting closer and closer to the end of the BC line. Julius Caesar was kidnapped by the Sicilian pirates, and it seems that the ones that had took him were from what is now. They were laying low in the Turkey region, what's modern day Turkey, and not so much actually Sicily. Sorry, and you're right. It says that he laughed in their faces, raised the ransom, sent his men to collect enough silver to pay it, and he won them all over, and then gained their trust, and then he later captured them, got all the silver back, and cut their throats and had them even crucified. So,
Jesus Christ.
like,
Oh man.
he went full blown on that shit. Like, good lord.
He wasn't fucking around.
Well, I mean, would you really expect anything less from a Caesar? No.
No.
Facts.
You really can't.
No.
And so out of that, we kind of got the Dark Ages. We're getting close to the end of this time and getting close to like where the thing kind of flips over, and we're at the end of the end of the Roman Empire and the beginning of like the Dark Ages and stuff like that. And up pop these Germanic and style pirates and stuff, along with Irish and Slavic pirates, as well as Moorish pirates, all come popping up in this area. And one of the first ones that's listed is the Frisians, and they were a Germanic ethnic group, out of some of the Netherlands region and such. So you've got, it's almost like they changed hands, because you actually do have Roman pirates out there in this area at this time, after like the big fall and stuff.
And I don't want to segue too hard into making a point of talking about military inventions and progress out of this, but there's something worth noting about all of this, Bandit. To the point you were bringing up earlier, is naval warfare is almost a byproduct of the fact that piracy exists, right? Because Greek fire, you mentioned earlier, is basically napalm. It's an early freaking flamethrower. So you don't have real logical means to attack someone on another vessel other than like bows and arrows. So you need something that could actually sink a ship.
Yeah.
Right. Without destroying yourself in the process.
What did they call that was on the front of their ships? Yeah, Greek fire. What they call those on the front of their ships? You know what I'm talking about?
This thing right here that shoots up?
No.
Talking about the
Neptune, the right there at the front, the point of the old ships. They had a specific name for those, where they would use those to ram another ship.
Right.
And you had to actually physically board the ship and kill everyone off, pretty much like with whatever you had in your hand,
right?
Whatever weapons you used. There was
so they just called them right. So according to what I found in just this quick search, they're just basically called naval rams, and there's one that references one used in 5th century BC called an aphlet ram. Here, Jimmy, I'll put this in the chat if you want to pull this up. But it's essentially a giant fucking spear for the front of a naval vessel. And its entire function is to disable a ship or sink it.
Yep. So there was no like long. They had a few. You had bows and arrows, and you had the Greek fire, and there's only so much you could do at a distance from those.
Right.
Yes. Your ability to defeat your enemy relied totally on you boarding the ship and taking it. Brutality at its worst. right there. Unlike later on when you had the ability to, when you had standoff weapons, cannons and muskets, you could, if you didn't feel like boarding a ship, you could totally and utterly destroy a ship and sink it and not have to worry about it. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Or you could batter them in to submission, board their ship without so much as a single loss on your side.
Because like you're saying, in these olden days, this is it right here. You burn one ship down and you capture everybody you can.
Maybe they had ballistas. Maybe.
Yeah, and those big ass ballista compound boats were used.
There it is, ramming it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to board and board their ship and take it. That's like, I can't even imagine.
So the most vile invention that I can think of, and I'll have to look up an example of it in use, is to the point of ballistas, which were used extensively on naval ships to put distance between them, because you have to recognize, right, that if you're going to get up close and personal with the ship, you better be better prepared and better matched to defeat your opponent, right? Mm-hmm. So it became a logical extension that why can't we figure out some way to take them down from a distance? And those ballistas are high powered, and there are many examples of them using those ballistas and putting like a fire laden bolt on it to penetrate the ships, sink them from a distance. They don't have to get up close and personal. Now you just completely sacked whoever you were attacking.
Yep.
So it was both a defensive and offensive tool in that respect.
So when they got in, when you get closer to the time of the Moorish pirates coming out of North Africa and the Turkish area after the Sicilian pirates kind of vanished out, you've got, and you start getting them coming in, but not only do you have the Irish and the Slavic pirates coming in at the same time from that area, this is when you actually do start seeing some form of, they were able to launch things. Maybe not cannonballs, maybe not gunshots, but their groups of people did evolve into having the ability to have rifles and cannons and such, as they were like toying around with the projection of, like, there was already the way to shoot the Greek fire, and so they were taking from that and figuring out how to fire off of that, because they were the Moorish pirates and the Slavic pirates and stuff, because the Asian pirates were already in existence at this time, and they were already using gunpowder for things, and they had, the Moorish pirates especially were getting their hands on things like gunpowder and other forms of steel and metal from the Asian pirates, because they were traveling back around into that area pretty regularly. So they start, and then like the Slavic and the Irish pirates start getting it from them as well, because their pirates are going to raid each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, pirates are pirates, but that's just it. Pirates are pirates. You may work with one group of pirates to help take down the current, superpower or whatever, but like, they're still pirates, and unfortunately they would turn on each other a lot.
Yeah. No honor amongst thieves. That's where the phrase originates.
What's the best way to keep a secret between three people? Kill two. that came from piracy.
Yeah.
Because, there are documented instances of them going to bury something or hide something, and only one of them coming away.
Yeah.
And another name that they were referred to, as far as, Moorish or whatever, was the Riffian pirates, for anybody who isn't familiar with what I'm saying on there. It's been seen in two different names, I guess. But they were known for, robbing a lot of the early European civilizations in the Mediterranean area right there that were forming up and stuff. And then also being known to go back into like India and that side of everything, like back towards Asia and stuff like that. So It's amazing to see that all these folks were out there traveling amongst each other and amongst these seas, because people find it, when I suggest that think places like ancient Africa, like ancient Egypt or Timbuktu, which at the time were like the New York cities of their time period. You know what I mean? Like those were big superpowered cities. And when I make suggestions that in these early AD times and these 1300s and 1200s and stuff AD, that these pirates were out there running around doing their thing in immaculate ships already, that it was very plausible that they were already sailing back and forth to areas over here. I mean, with the fact that you have Vikings and stuff sailing into the Americas in that time frame, you've absolutely got to have, Africans, Moorish pirates, Turkish pirates, Irish pirates as well, going into these areas and going into the Americas and stuff. And I'm big into theorizing that there was a lot of established things already here prior to colonization, and they didn't build a lot of those immaculate buildings we see throughout history. It just doesn't seem plausible. So,
Yeah, I agree.
So were these pirates bringing people back and forth and hiding over here in what is today America and South America and stuff? Like I know Bandit loves bringing up how in South America they keep unearthing all this stuff. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to find entire remnants of pirate civilizations in areas like that, and out of time frame, like that would throw people off and stuff. Because
Right.
if they're already traveling the seas of the Mediterranean and the seas of the Pacific and the Indian Oceans and stuff like that in this time frame, they're absolutely out there trying to conquer the Atlantic as well.
Yeah, there is very good and strong evidence to support that, like so many, especially the Golden Age, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but so many pirates during that time frame, including Blackbeard is a notable example, who had his ship washed up off the coast of Hilton Head Island just north of here. It's worth pointing out that they did have to flee to somewhere they wouldn't be found, somewhere that was not populated or loosely populated. And it kind of goes hand in glove with the rumors of, lost treasure, where they made their riches, and for all it's worth, they had to hide it so that they wouldn't get mutinied by their own crews and stabbed in the back.
Yeah, and a lot of them was like they got their riches and they spent it.
Yep.
A lot of them did.
Yeah, they had to, in order to spend that too, you had to have a means of commerce, especially in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, they traded.
Going back to those days.
Piracy
Absolutely.
and trade goes hand in hand. Yep. Piracy when you think pirates, you think mainly like just constantly take. A vast majority of the time, these guys, when they weren't taking stuff, when they weren't like taking ships, they were running cargo from here to there. They were active traders.
Right.
Yes. Well, but that's what I was saying is, you've got all these pirates in these, like I was just saying to Neptune, you got all these pirates in these areas that are traveling all over the Eastern Hemisphere's oceans, all around that area. And there's totally like a jet stream that's in the ocean that goes from like the tip of Africa to the Caribbean.
Yes.
Okay. Like that's a thing. And so people, not myself, but I know a lot of people find it almost fathomably impossible that they were traveling back to the Americas in the 800s, the 1200s, the 1300s AD.
Whoa. Okay. I'll break that real quick. There is evidence, I'm getting way off track, but just to prove your point, there is evidence that the pharaohs had nicotine and cocaine in their system.
Yes.
That is not native to that area.
And corn found in Africa.
Yeah, that is not native to the area.
So I would think that the pirates were the best way that they were getting there.
Yeah.
Think about it.
There is evidence that people now, I mean, it just, you got to dig. You really, really got to dig for it. And it's not going to be taught to you in school. There is evidence people sailed across the Atlantic 3,000 BC.
Yes.
You know, I mean, how hard is that for people to, like, you know?
Well, it actually, I
they
think it brings
weren't
up a good
advanced
point.
enough.
Okay, I think it brings up a good point, because there's not a lot of pirates don't have a lot of written history. A lot of their history is very verbal between each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, even a modern Somalian pirate would probably know more about piracy than we could ever wrap our brain around, due to talking the lore down and such. So, you know, my thing is that you were talking about them early in this episode. We were talking about how it was a great job. Like, it was something looked up to at one point in time. So I wouldn't find it beyond these Roman empires, these Egyptian empires, these Greek empires, to have hired pirates to travel across to the Western Hemisphere and see what they could find and what they couldn't find. And, you know, this might actually explain how these pharaohs had these drugs in their system, how corn ended up in Africa before it needed to end up in Africa. Pirates could have had a very, very big influence on all of that, because these pirates were sailing in the seas before anybody can wrap their head around a naval ship being built. Like, these guys obviously learned how to build these ships from somewhere, right? Like, it's not like people made ships that could make that travel in until the 1500s, when Europe was being strong.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
In order to fund a exploration, I mean, that's a significant chunk of change that you have to come up with. Well, shit, man, I can hire these pirates for, 100 pounds of tobacco and a kilo of cocaine, and they'll do it for me. And it's off the books. There's no paper trail.
Yeah, so it's just going to be a word of mouth.
And then maybe I can take credit for it. I mean, seriously though,
it's amazing to think that these sea people have been out here sailing these seas since man was able to start writing things down, basically.
Yep.
I think it's something that's greatly looked over on a regular basis, because, as you made mention of the water world thing earlier, sure, a lot of people have lived inland and on land all throughout known existence, but just like not knowing much about the oceans as it is, these people had to be out there not only mapping these oceans, but traveling these oceans and living lives at sea. Like, it's completely plausible that there were just...
They did it because they had to.
Yeah.
It wasn't
and
some
they
government
probably
funded...
Right, and they probably had better success hiring pirates and mercenaries over them paying a Spanish buffoon to get lost halfway around the world.
Magellan? We're talking about Magellan?
I'm talking about Columbus, yeah.
Oh, Columbus. Yeah, I mean, seriously, though. Who are you going to trust more? Somebody that has spent their whole life on the sea, or somebody that you're going to hire to do it, and you got to pay a shitload of money, and you might not get it done.
So that actually brings us, I think, into a little bit deeper on the idea of the Irish pirates and the Slavic pirates and the Nordic pirates, because you've got them from 400 AD all the way up to 1780.
Let's just call them for what they are.
That's the
Vikings.
True, but that's 1400 years of pirates of one group. Like, that's a stretch. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big stretch.
So their entire that goes into as far to assume that they had an entire culture built around that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like,
still do.
Yeah.
So you figure and like you made mention of the Vikings, you figure though in 400 AD, the year 400, these pirates were up there sailing the seas already in the Atlantic Ocean, on this side of things. So it is completely plausible, and that they were definitely traveling here into the States to maybe not only hide things in Canada and stuff like that, to not only
Leif
maybe hide things, but
Erikson.
have their entire civilization here.
Yeah.
Leif Erikson.
Yeah. He land in somewhere in America like 300 years before Columbus did?
Correct.
Even come close?
Was it that? I think it was further out than I thought it was further out.
I'd
have to look it up. Nobody quote me on this. I'm not an expert in that, but yeah, Leif Erikson was here before Columbus. I mean, Columbus didn't even land in fucking America.
Yeah, wound up in Cuba.
So let's not,
Idiot.
Yeah. So piracy has been around. I mean, piracy has been around for a long time.
I mean,
man.
okay. See, this is I guess the importance of the Irish pirates, I guess, is kind of, and these Viking pirates or these pirates of this time, because without these pirates, St. Patrick probably wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the waterways wouldn't be mapped either.
Yes.
Without pirates.
Yeah.
They mapped the Caribbean.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially especially this group that we're talking about now, which usually get referred to as Vikings or Irish pirates, is what you'll usually find this information under. But it's the same kind of group, the same kind of area. And
it's really hard because this hasn't been Hollywoodized. This era of piracy hasn't been Hollywoodized. So when you get into it, it's not going to be as abundant online as everything else, because this era it's gonna take some digging and really looking through history to find this stuff. So that's why it's still like it could be,
but this is here's another one of those instances where you're ending up with another pirate queen, because in the Irish considered side of it, you had the Queen Granuaile, and she was.
I'm not gonna butcher that. I'm not gonna
butcher that. And this is again getting closer and closer to the end of their era, because again they went on till the 1780s, so like right before a lot of the golden age and stuff kind of started. But these guys, this is back in the 1500s when she was a fucking another pirate queen. Like there's something up there, man. Like a lot of these women end up becoming pirate queens, and I guess in a sense I could understand it, because why not? Why not have that mother figure that all these dudes are probably looking up to, in a sense?
Mama issues.
She probably, yeah, absolutely. No, they probably have mommy issues, but most of these guys, you figure these are outcasts of society at our I guess I relate with pirates so well, being an outcast my entire life. And pirates are most definitely the outcasts of human society.
Yes, and they're idolized in a weird way.
Absolutely.
It's not always wrong, though.
It's not always wrong. You are correct. And we'll get into this a lot in a lot later episodes that, you guys can look forward to. But like, because of pirates, because of piracy, because of Blackbeard, current modern day democracy and stuff exists in the way that it does. Like they are a big influence. Like pirates are an influence across history, not only with like naval and war tactics, but like travel and commerce and trade and stuff like that. These guys were literally trading at a free market, and it was survival of the fittest. If you were taking the chance of trading with a pirate, well, you better hope that you're better armed so that you can have a little bit more respect to the other one that's there, and you know what I'm saying? Because like you can respect each other on opposite ends of it if you know that both of you are capable of killing each other. There was just a more mutual, open respect for each other. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't see pirates as criminals and stuff like that, how they were tried to be painted. if anything, they were probably the most upstanding people there was. But if you crossed them, but they were just looking out for
They were
themselves.
more honorable to their crew and each other than modern day politicians.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Facts.
Hands down, man.
Absolutely. If you were on that ship, you were taken care of. You were family. They looked
As
out
long as
for
you
their
followed
kind.
the voluntary rules, and contributed, that's all you had to do.
And then
You only had the pirate code, which it varies. It varies, but if you bring it up, you can come upon your own conclusion as to what the pirate code was. But if you followed the code and did what you were supposed to do, and you lived the good life.
So, and this will be another area that's kind of untouched that people don't even really think about either. But this is another group that was considered Vikings or whatever. They were along in this group, but they come out of Russia. It's the same time frame that we're talking about right now in the 12th to 15th century. This is in the AD. We've gone past BC, but like these guys are like Russian pirates, and I don't know how much most folks know about these Russian pirates, but it's going to be like a lot of modern Russians because they're badass. Like, but this goes back to them having a mutual agreement kind of thing, because you've got these Irish pirates, Russian pirates, Nordic, Slavic, and like you said, there was a pirate code. Like there was a way that they kind of had agreements and articles of how they did things. And they just kind of voted on it with each other.
I don't know if Wikipedia is the best. Hold on, I got something.
It's a high level. I mean, it's very cursory, but
I've got a better example of this.
Okay, that's fine.
Hold on, I'll send the link to you, and then somebody can pull this up for me.
But they did have this code in between each other where they were kind of setting these rules for one another. I mean, again, like we talked before, even though a lot of the things we believe in as anarchists or pirates, how I consider myself, like it's not that we don't want rules, we just don't want rulers.
Well, yes, and I think with that would it go more with, because we have a difficult time explaining anarchism to people that don't like, there's still that stigma. So
yeah,
they'd be more like mutualists or volunteerists.
Absolutely.
Everything is shared and you have to volunteer to be. You basically, I don't think I've ever come across, but I could be very wrong. And if there's any viewers that want to say, hey, comment on the page and say where we were wrong on something, that'd be awesome. Yes. I don't ever feel like I've run across like examples of pirates conscripting crews.
I can't actually think of anything either.
I don't think it was all voluntary, and they all shared everything. You were supposed to share everything. So it's mutualism and volunteerism. Wouldn't necessarily say, and it could, and anarchism. I mean, all three of them could very well fit right into that whole pirate way of life. I posted a better link to the pirate code in the group chat. You want to check that, Jimmy?
I'm trying to pull it up right now so we can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found
actually a really good website. That's actually a really good website.
Yeah, I just plucked one from Way of the Pirates, so you can take a look at that one too if you want.
That's exactly that's the link I sent.
Is it?
Oh, okay.
I got it to pull up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. See, I mean, you got the right way of looking at it, man. It's the better of the links.
Here we are. The Way of the Pirate.
This is exactly. Oh no.
Here, click the link in the chat.
Yeah, got it.
How many tabs do you have pulled up, dude? That could have been an issue.
Holy crap! Yeah, that is a lot of tabs.
Jeez, that could be an issue with your internet crashing. Or
this is everything that we're doing so far today.
Yeah.
So guys, there is going to be a lot of things to reference for that because I want you guys to dig into this.
No. I can't imagine what your windows would look like. How many icons you would have up on your windows, dude.
This window is just for this episode, and
I know, dude.
After I copy it all down, when I'm done with the episode, I just close this tab.
No, I know, man. I know. Neptune is like, man, I bet he has like 1,000 icons on his desktop.
We love you, man.
We love you, dude. You're gonna get some trash talking from other people outside the website outside the podcast that are gonna look at this and go, man, dude, there's a lot of tabs, man. That's the pirates' way of thinking.
Organized, I think.
I know.
We love you, dude. We love you. Yeah, man. So this looked like a pretty good one. Like, it references a specific list of rules from a book called General History of Pirates.
Yes.
From Charles Johnson. So it lists here, and obviously some of this language is archaic, but don't steal, don't fight, don't rape. That's kind of the big three.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Do no harm unless harm is done unto you. I mean,
man,
what is that?
Yep.
And they kind of voted in the affairs of things, like if they were, you know what I'm saying, on.
Oh no, seriously, that's
Like, but they took like an actual vote of the people there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if the captain didn't agree, he might have put one in you on the side of the fucking ship. You don't know. It in a sense, it kind of was a monarchy in a way, but they were still.
Whoa, no.
I mean, you always had to have an answer to the captain at the end
of the crew. He had to answer to the crew. I mean, there is you could easily be removed as captain if you were changing your crew, or if you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. You could be removed as captain. So it's they had balance.
That's what I was kind of getting at. Is like the captain kind of had final say in a lot, but he had to watch how he did it. He had to have respect for the way he did it. It wasn't a
rule with an iron fist.
Kind of like an informal delegation.
Yes.
You didn't rule. You couldn't rule with an iron fist.
Yes, you couldn't rule with an iron fist.
Yeah,
because mutiny and they would keel haul your ass.
On that note, so there's one probably, and this is my final thought, I think, for today, Jimmy. If you want to pull up Captain John Phillips of the Revenge, he was a pirate during the Golden Age, and he had developed a code of conduct for his vessel. And I believe, ironically enough, that wound up, as you guys mentioned, wound up biting him in the end.
Yes.
When his own crew had released the prisoners and they killed him.
Yeah, this was early. This was during the same time as like the Irish pirates and stuff were getting ready to end out. Like they were. This leads up into the age of the Golden Age and stuff like that.
Right.
You are correct. But like, yeah, he did. He bit off more than he could chew. He did exactly what he shouldn't have done, and they yeeted his ass out of the group.
Yeah, that is textbook mutiny. No.
But that's where it got out of hand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for the most
absolutely.
part, throughout a lot of the things that you find and see, it was all mutual. It was all they talked about it amongst the ship. Those were the only people you knew. You know what I'm saying? You see those same people day in and day out for Lord knows how long on the boat, if not your whole life, or in a lot of cases. A lot of these guys grew old, and they either grew old and died or didn't make it very long and died because
they
piracy
didn't
is
make
a
it very
dangerous
long.
job.
I know at least the crew didn't make it very long.
Or they vanished.
Yeah, because like
over here to the Americas, south and north and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
scurvy was the number one killer on a lot of the vessels that traveled the open seas, especially for years at a time. Disease.
And the thing with scurvy is what you just think of like the teeth problem. Scurvy happens when you don't get, like, mainly it's vitamin C, but there's other factors involved with that. The most gruesome being that all of your old scars reopen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's terrible to think of.
It's a way to that's a horrible way to die.
Yeah, that's life at sea. At least then that was life at sea, man. You didn't see a lot of people reach old age and say, "No, I think I'm gonna retire the next year." No, musket ball to the face. You're done. That's just the way that it went. Nice. But your time, Jimmy likes to say the pirates were some of the freest people to ever grace the planet, and he is right. That time you lived as a pirate was some of the most free you could possibly imagine to live. Yeah,
because even if you're dying young, you're living more of your life, the years that you're alive.
Seeing things no one else is ever going to see, traveling places no one else is going to travel, eating
Live
things
fast,
no
die
one
young.
can imagine of.
Yep.
That's where these great stories of things like mermaids, Bigfoot, Loch Ness monsters, sea monsters in general, all of this stuff comes from somewhere, and it comes from a lot of these guys out there spending their entire life on a boat, traveling to different places to land, traveling, and sure, they were robbing other boats for their needs to survive, but hey, that's a different subject, and I bet you if you really dug to the bottom of it, there could probably be a lot behind why they did it, because pirates were always persecuted. In the very early ages, it wasn't so much persecution, but the Greeks and the Romans began persecuting all of them and chasing after them and demonizing them, and they were turning these free sea people into the enemy of the state. So these free sea people were doing what they found necessary to keep their freedom and keep it moving and become the most legendary things there is, I believe, in human existence. Like I don't think there's anything cooler than a fucking pirate. Like,
yeah, sure. You might have died at 30, mid-30s. Maybe you made it to 40. And you get this awful stigma only because of certain governments wanted to crush them, giving them bad stigmas. No, Karen, you at 80 years old, being a member of your HOA, you are more evil than a fucking pirate. I would rather live free to 40 than live under a government's control to 80.
Amen.
Amen to that, man. That's just my thoughts, though.
No. I think that's great. So of course, this has been the first episode of the next docuseries here on Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast, where the next chapter, I believe, we're going to start leading in to something that kind of ran beside this situation, but isn't really spoke on too much, but is a little more known, which is the Asian piracy, because it as well goes back to the BC era and travels kind of side by side in its territory, leading up to what we all call the golden age of piracy. And I believe that covering both sides of this is a good place to lead up, because you've got pirates of pretty much every known culture, ethnicity, walk of life there is, coming from the Balkan area, coming from the Mediterranean area, coming from the African area, coming from the Russian area, coming
from the Americas.
From the Americas and everything.
I just don't think there's been any Canadian pirates, though, eh?
I mean, those
The
guys
French-
try, I guess, but I guess they're too.
French pirates, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Now the French
But-
pirates, the French pirates kind of come up at the early stages of the Golden Age. That is something I'm pretty familiar with. Like a lot of their stuff kind of set the Golden Age forward with pirates, including yet again another female pirate captain, pirate queen. There's even those in the Asian history and stuff. Like I think that's going to be a reoccurring thing you guys are going to see because pirate queens seem to keep popping up. I don't know what it is. So, you got anything you want to throw in there before we close up for this one tonight, guys?
No, I'm all good here, man.
I just had a really funny thing to go off the Canadian pirates. A European pirate will stab you. A Canadian pirate might just politely ask that you hand over your bounty.
Maybe.
Well, of
Hand
course,
over your stuff there, buddy, eh?
Yeah, of course, you guys know I got one. So, pirate walks into a bar with a parrot on his shoulder. The bartender says, "You know what? A couple of days ago, I saw a pirate with a cow on his shoulder." The pirate says, "Yar, I bet he didn't know how to milk a parrot." Too much? All right. You guys have a great evening. We'll see you again next time.